After John's remarkable escape from injury, the teenage daughter of some close friends of theirs had been tragically killed in an auto accident. John and Mary had reached out to their friends to walk with them through this devastating experience of the loss of a child. Mary explained to me and the other parishioners that, while she and John were still very grateful to God for John's escape from injury, they no longer felt comfortable talking about his deliverance in terms of God's protection or divine providence. They continued to proclaim their gratitude for God's providential care in John's life. What would their dear friends think? Would they conclude that God had not been exercising providential care for their teenage daughter? Were they and their daughter not as worthy of God's protection as John and Mary had been? Mary concluded her intervention by asking me, "What should we be saying in this situation? How should we be talking?" Mary's question is the type of query all of us have grappled with at different moments in our lives. How should we conceive of and talk about God in the face of tragic, inexplicable human suffering? What kind of discourse is appropriate? What is God doing or not doing when a young person is killed in an auto accident, or when the life of an innocent person is snuffed out in war or by an act of terrorism? Where is God to be found in the midst of such experiences? Those of us who exercise pastoral ministry in the church have heard questions like these on innumerable occasions. So many pastoral encounters are occasioned by experiences of suffering. It's obvious in our visits to people in hospitals or nursing homes or funeral parlors, but it happens in countless other places too, often when we least expect it. People come to pastoral ministers in order to try to make sense of such experiences, or if not to make sense of them, at least to find a way through them. Wise, experienced ministers are keenly aware that explanation is not the first order of business. In fact, attempts at explanation don't accomplish much of anything, and actually they can do damage to the suffering person. Nevertheless, at some point in our presence to people in their suffering, we do find ourselves talking about God. We engage in some kind of discourse about God, talk that's grounded in deep convictions of faith. At the right moment, people do desire this God talk, even if it's articulated only in the simplest of prayers. In these lectures, we'll explore the ways that significant thinkers in the Judeo-Christian tradition, past and present, have spoken about God in the face of the experience of suffering. We do this not merely to catalog a series of theological viewpoints. Our goal is not simply to be more informed about the ways in which theologians write about this topic. Rather, we want to enter into a lively conversation with the people and the ideas we'll be discussing. So I invite you to reflect on the theological perspectives that are discussed in these subsequent lectures or topics as part of your own search to discover ways of talking about God and suffering that are both faithful to the tradition and responsive to people's real experience. Though these lectures are about theology rather than pastoral technique, the theological principles and positions discussed here do have implications for pastoral care to suffering people, real implications for that pastoral care. Implicit theologies. I'd suggest that each one of us already has some version of a theology of God and suffering that's present and operative within us. This theology may well be implicit. We may never have reflected on it or tried to articulate it in theological terms, but it is there. The sources of this theology derive from a wide diversity of places. Our earliest education in the faith is clearly an influence on our personal theology. Treasured scenes or stories from Scripture provide images and metaphors for conceiving of God in the face of the experience of suffering. Perhaps most importantly, personal experiences of acute suffering have left their impact on the ways in which we think about God. Such experiences may have helped our faith in the God of Jesus Christ to mature and to deepen, or they may have made it more difficult to believe in a God the Judeo-Christian tradition describes as good. Our own personal theology of God and suffering manifests itself when we speak to or pray for a person in the hospital or anyone grappling with